Well, cutting-edge science may have solved a decades-long cold case. The so-called Golden State Killer, wanted for dozens of attacks and at least 13 murders, eluded captors for decades. But investigators got his DNA then and now. Kenneth Craig explains how.
Suspected serial killer Joseph DeAngelo may have been able to pull off one of the most notorious killing sprees in California history. But for a former police officer who eluded investigators for decades, his recent capture came down to modern-day forensic technology, DNA evidence he left behind. More than 100 pages of heavily redacted court documents read like a real-life CSI, revealing that a DNA sample recovered this April sealed the case against him. Retired NYPD cold case homicide sergeant Joseph Jackalone.
I think this was the last thing that was on DeAngelo's mind, was that the changing in forensics would ever catch up to him.
72-year-old DeAngelo has not entered a plea. His alleged crime spree included at least a dozen murders and more than 50 attacks and sexual assaults in the 1970s and 80s. Investigators first narrowed in on the so-called Golden State Killer by plugging DNA from a 1980 double murder into a genealogy website, finding family members which led to him. With a suspect at their fingertips, this spring they followed him to a Sacramento area Hobby Lobby store and took a DNA sample from his car door handle. Days later, investigators recovered another DNA sample from one discarded tissue tossed in a trash can outside DeAngelo's home, which registered a match to DNA evidence left at one of the crime scenes.
If you put your trash out on the curb, you throw a cigarette butt on the floor, that's called abandoned property, and the police can come and collect it, and they can test it, and they can use that against you.
That evidence is part of a mounting case against DeAngelo. Investigators also searched his home, but a judge is not letting the public see what they found inside, ruling the release would make it impossible to get a fair trial. Dozens of personal items, including rings and photographs, were stolen from the victims' homes, Rena.
A lot of police work here, Kenneth.
And really important to remember that investigators have been working to solve these cases for more than 40 years.
Kenneth Craig, thank you very much.